It was another typical day at the world's finest daycare, also known as Granny's house. Grandma Winnie's was where I spent most of my days while my older siblings and cousins were at school. Granny and I chilling out together for the entire day, 5 days each week. She would watch her soap operas and I would watch Nick Jr. It was truly a fantastic time. This particular day, however, I decided that the cartoons were not sufficient enough in curing my boredom. Being the curious 4-year-old I was, I typically found a way to get into things that I was not supposed to. While washing my hands in the bathroom, I noticed a razor sitting near the sink. Nobody was there to claim that razor, so it was essentially free game. Here are the thoughts that began to run through my head. So I know that people say that razors are sharp, but how sharp are they? I don't have a mustache I can trim yet. I probably shouldn't test this out on the hair on top of my head. Ooh, I know. I can test the sharpness of this razor on my eyebrow. Once this thought came into my head, there was no going back. I picked up the razor and lightly grazed it across one of my eyebrows. Yep, that razor was sharp. I looked in the mirror and nearly half of my eyebrow was gone. And later that day, I got a stern talking to from my parents. Now, my eyebrow did eventually grow back and I grew from that situation. I learned that razors are in fact sharp and that a Milosh without half of an eyebrow was not a good look. Our childhood is a period in our lifetimes when we experience a tremendous amount of growth. As we grow up, we learn a lot about ourselves, the people around us, and the world as a whole. We get older and it sometimes feels like that natural physical, mental, and emotional growth that we experienced when we were younger no longer exists. Our lives tend to get busier and we forget about that growth. In order for us to be more intentional in our growth, we must leave room to try, leave room to reflect, and leave room for the people who support us. Family has always been an integral part of my life, and being the baby of the family, I always wanted to do what my older siblings did. My brother was getting a Gatorade from the gas station. I wanted a Gatorade from the gas station. My sister was getting a new iPod. I wanted a new iPod. My brother was going fishing with dad. Oh yes, I was going to. So when it was time for my older brother and sister to register for the baseball and softball recreational leagues, I wanted to as well. Excited that I had finally reached an age of eligibility, I was more than ready to take on T-ball. The first day of practice, I grabbed my brand new glove and walked anxiously with my mom to the baseball fields near our home. When we got there, however, I began to feel nervous. What if I am a terrible ball player? My brother and sister, yeah, they're great at this, but what if I'm no good? After explaining the basics of the game, our coach split us up into different positions on the field. And let me tell you, I was a natural. My nerves began to diminish and I began to grow a deep love for the game. Boy, am I glad I played T-ball. I'm glad I decided to try. Sometimes when we try, we aren't successful. There were plenty of times when I failed in baseball. In fact, when my coach tried to put me in the catcher's position, I was hit in the chest by the very first pitch and decided that catching was not for me. I would never play catcher again, but because I found out that I was not good in that role, I was able to focus on strengthening my abilities in other positions. Even though I failed, I am glad I tried. Regardless of whether we succeed or fail, it is vital that we leave room to try because either way, growth is inevitable. Try out for that officer position even though you've been afraid to because you think you might not make the team. Join the livestock judging team despite never actually being around live animals before. Apply to that college that you have been wanting to attend. Regardless of the experience, regardless of the possibility of failure, and regardless of the amount of uncertainty that comes with new opportunities, we must leave room in our life to try. As I mentioned before, baseball was a very important part of my life growing up, but I also enjoyed being outside and taking in nature. On many Sunday afternoons, my mom, my siblings, and I would head to the lake that is about 10 minutes away from my home. My mom loved taking us there to feed the ducks. When I got older, however, trips to the lake no longer served that same purpose. Instead of hanging out with my family at the lake, I began to drive myself there and spend time reading, writing in my journal, or thinking about my next steps in life. Trips to the lake are how I reflect. At one point this year, life got really busy. Traveling around the state for FFA events, trying to be more involved in my college campus, and keeping up my grades admittedly got overwhelming at times. These were the times I knew I needed to stop what I was doing, travel to the lake, and reflect. Reflection is processing where we have been, analyzing how we have changed to get where we are now, and thinking about where we want to be in the future. On many of my trips to the lake, I began thinking about all the ways that I could continue to balance things well and make adjustments to better care for myself and those around me. Now I know many people may not like this type of reflection where you sit down and read or write in your journal. However, reflection takes place in our everyday lives, in everyday activities. Reflection is talking to your parents about how the opening night of your theater show went and making adjustments to ensure that the following nights are even better. Reflection is that team huddle after a long game where you and your teammates plan how you will be better for the remaining games in the season. Reflection is driving home from school after making a terrible test grade and thinking about ways that you will study differently to prepare for the next one. Without intentional reflection, we don't grow. We become complacent with where we are right now instead of continuously making an effort to be better. We must leave room to actually try new experiences, and we must leave room in our life to reflect. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and let me tell you, that is so true. As much as we try, we can't grow on our own. It truly does take a village. My very large extended family has been that village for me. Both my parents have 7 siblings, most of which have children of their own. On both sides of the family, I collectively have over 20 first cousins, and I happen to be the youngest of all of them. I've spent countless hours with these people, and because of this, they have helped me grow tremendously. People in our lives help us grow by giving us advice, celebrating our victories, supporting us through our losses, serving as our role models, and challenging us. My family has modeled these parts of growth in so many ways. However, there are a few situations that immediately come to mind when I think about their support. One of these took place my junior year of high school. It was the end of the first semester, and I had been struggling to write timed essays in my English class. Essays that I thought were pretty good continuously received poor scores. Upset at the situation, I went to my oldest cousin for help. See, she works in education and is someone that I really look up to. First of all, she told me that everything was going to be all right. Then I let her read my paper, explaining to her why I deserved to have a higher grade. She then did something that I really did not expect. She agreed with my teacher. Pointing out everything that I needed to fix in my paper, she began to explain to me why my grade accurately reflected what I wrote. She then gave me tangible solutions to writing a better paper and also challenged me to seek feedback from that teacher. At the time, honestly, I was not too happy with my cousin. She was supposed to agree with me, not some teacher who, by the way, she didn't even know. Looking back though, I realized that all my cousin was trying to do was help me grow. First, she supported me. Then she gave me tangible solutions to becoming a better writer. Once I actually took her advice, I was gradually able to bring up my essay scores. We should all seek to have people in our lives who help us grow. This person doesn't have to be your family. It can be a friend, your teammate, an FFA advisor, or anyone else who you have a connection with. We must seek those people who add value to our lives and leave room to acknowledge and appreciate their presence. Over the course of this year, I've traveled all across the state meeting tons of amazing FFA members. While we all share common interest in agriculture, our growth looks different. Growth is being able to recite a single paragraph of the FFA Creed before your classmates, when before you were terrified of speaking in front of people. Growth is working hard to actually pass a class when midway through the semester you had a failing grade. Growth is being more confident in yourself and your abilities despite initially being afraid to share your talents and strengths with those around you. Growth is intentional. And in order to pursue it fully, we must leave room in our life to try. We must leave room in our life to reflect, and we must leave room in our life for people to pour into us. When we do these things, we leave room in our life for growth.